Your point, there was a quote that was like mind-blowing to me, and it said people think that you have to have success in order to be happy, but actually people that are happy breed success. So the fastest way to become successful is to already choose to be happy. People love to work with happy people. You're going to have more energy, you're going to be positive. So happiness actually comes before
it's contagious
success. Yeah.
Welcome to the This and That Plus Cat podcast. Here on my podcast, we will talk about a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And of course, I'm your host, Kat.
Okay.
Hello, welcome back to an episode of This and That Plus Cat. Today we are here with my family. We have Nolan, Taylor, Carissa, Uncle Glenn, all the way down there, my mother, Auntie Pep, and my grandmother. And yeah, that's today's episode. Okay. So the first question I'd like to ask is, we're in a nice house here. I know, Uncle Glenn, that over the time you've worked very hard for the things that you have. And I'd kind of like to hear a little bit about how you got to where you are now.
I'm 53 years old.
almost 54.
So, yeah, I'll be 54 next month.
Yeah.
So,
5 years.
I started working when I was 19 years old. I graduated high school in New Hampshire, moved to Florida, went to college, and was working part-time at night. About 6 months into college, I'm like, I'm going to quit school. I'm going to go work full-time, because I didn't really have a reason why I was going to college other than you're supposed to go to college, right? So, But I was on my own, needed to provide for myself. So I was renting a room, Longboat Key. And I dropped out of school and went to work full-time for a landscape company during the day and for a grocery store at night. So I worked from 7:30 to 5, actually 7:30 to 4:30 with the landscape business. And then I would ride my bike home because I didn't have a car, and ride my bike home. It's like 4 miles, and would go to the grocery store, work from I guess 5:30 to 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So I did that for a couple of years, saved some money, bought a car. Once I got a raise, bought a car, I didn't work at the grocery store anymore. And I was just working as a laborer, worked my way up to a crew leader, worked my way up to maintenance manager, ended up becoming a partner in the business. I mean, there's a lot of stories in between there, but long story short, I became an owner of the business that grew from like 9 people to 125 people with 3 locations. And so my whole career has basically been in the landscape industry, and I've worked my way up from the laborer up to the owner. So, the whole American dream,
Scenario.
that story that you hear about. You don't hear about that a lot nowadays, but back in the day, in the 50s and the 60s, that's how people got to be, president of companies. They worked their way up from the bottom. So I'm sort of old school in that. You don't hear a lot of stories like me out there. A lot of people jump around and go into different things. So, But for me, just learning every aspect of the job and working my way up, I taught myself a lot of things. I tried to learn every day, trying to learn from people that were around me, that I looked up to, that were in positions I wanted to be in. And I eventually, got to a position where I'm able to afford a nice home. This is our second home, but when we were younger, we had kids when we were young, and I just had to survive and provide for the family. So the money was just paying the bills back then. But after 15 years of that, you get to the point where you can start saving some money and really starting to think about investing. And so I've started doing that in the last 10, 15 years. I learned a lot from my dad, because my dad's a big investor. And when you have somebody to talk to that it makes it seem easier and real to be able to do it yourself, and you have someone that you can ask questions to. So that was a big part of getting, because I had my job, but I also made a lot of money through investments too. So I've got a ways to go. I still have things that we want to do. I'm staring retirement in the face. But yeah,
Like,
just
good.
I show up to work every day. The big thing about work is you got to show up. Get up, go to work, get there, and because some people struggle with getting things done during the day. The biggest part is just showing up, and then once you're there, then you're gonna get things done. So.
Did you have a mentor that sticks out to you along your journey?
I did, yeah. I had a manager that I worked for, Don. He was sort of a mentor for me at work. The guy that I originally worked for that was the founder of the company, Les, he wasn't as much of a mentor as to me back then, but now when I think about him, I have a lot more respect for him now and a lot more appreciation for him now than I did when I was working for him. Because I look at the business, and the business has been bought and sold a few times. And it's when you have a founder of a business who started something from scratch. And when I think about that business on Longboat Key, I think that's his business. He started that business. And we just took it from there and grew it, and it's been bought and sold multiple times. And there's a group of guys that have been working at this business for a long time, but the character, there's a lot of turnover and people are new. But to go out there and start a business on your own and let it survive. A lot of businesses fail in the first year.
Yep.
I think it's a huge number, right?
Yeah.
First year.
And 5 years, like the business that lasts over 5 years long it's higher than 50%. I don't know what the percentage is. The businesses that last more than one generation are like probably 5%, like a very small percentage.
Amazing.
So for me, it's been cool to be a part of the same business that's still running. The name's changed, but
So it's been
But
30
yeah.
years.
it's been
Yes.
35 years.
Crazy.
So yeah,
That's
so I was 19. So it's 35 years this month,
Wow.
actually.
Happy
November
anniversary.
1st, 35
Nice.
years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like when you first initially moved down here, why landscaping? Because your love for plants, or
I got to
Just walked right into it, right?
It's funny because I wasn't looking for a landscaping job. I was the lady we were renting a room from. Her name was Joni, and we were working at the grocery store at night. I had a buddy of mine that moved down from New Hampshire, and we were renting a room together, staying at this lady's house, who was the mother of another friend of mine from high school in New Hampshire. And she basically said, "Hey, I got a friend of mine that's looking for workers," and he owned a landscape company. He had a tree company. And so we basically said, "Okay, we'll go work for him." And so I started working for him.
Matt, where's
His name was
No,
his
that's
name
before
was
that. This is when he was-
that guy's name was Rob Kraft, and he had a tree business. He did landscaping.
Before
I worked
that.
for him for probably 6 months. But while I was working for him, I was paying attention to other landscape companies on the island, and this company that I worked for, Young's, was like the company on Longboat Key. They had nice trucks, they had nice
The same
signage,
team.
they did nice work. And when I was working at the grocery store, some of the guys that worked from Young's, like the manager that worked for Young's, would come into the grocery store. He said, "Hey, if you come to work for us, we'll pay you $5 an hour, and you can work full time for us." And I was making $3.75 an hour working at the grocery store at that time.
That's
Crazy.
crazy.
And I said, "Really, $5 an hour?" I said, "I'll do
Can
that."
you
And
imagine that?
so I started
25
working.
years ago.
So I started working for that company. So I really wasn't looking for a landscape job.
Yeah.
It was just a job for me. It was just a means to an
Money,
end.
yeah.
I just needed to make money, and I just happened to stay with that business. And the business happened to grow. Like I said, from 9 employees to 130 employees now.
2 tree
But
farms.
when I think about landscaping, I think about my mother a lot because she likes to garden. And then I think about when I was younger. If you remember, when I was younger, I would go mow the lawn at the church. Remember the church in Grafton? Do you remember that?
Yes.
I did do and I also did landscaping when I worked with Aaron one summer when I was in high school. We just took care of this guy's yard. One of his rich uncle had a big yard, and he'd pay us for the summer to go. And so landscaping's sort of been in my life, weirdly. But
A lot of times people talk about people who have success or people who have money, they have a certain type of mentality that goes along with that a lot of other people don't have. Do you agree with that?
I think there's a lot of different personalities out there with business owners. I think there's certain characteristics of a successful business owner
Drive.
that may be similar.
I agree
like,
with that.
you know,
Definitely.
the thing about running a business is you have to. Well, first of all, you have to build a client base, and then you have to hire employees, and then there's a big difference between a business with 5 people and a business with 135 people.
She has. Right.
If you want to grow a business and build a big organization, you have to hire people, and then you have to give them the freedom to do things that you would normally do.
Right.
Where I'm going with this is a business owner, once you get to a big enough business, your job is to look out for problems that may happen. Like, you have to be looking ahead down the road. Like, everything's great right now. We got a lot of work right now, but you got to be thinking about 6 months from now. You got to be thinking about a year from now.
The best people are planning 2 years ahead of time.
Yes. So your job as a business owner evolves, and it depends on the size of the business and what's going on. But a good business leader is kind of the captain of the ship and is kind of looking out and making decisions for everybody in the ship and giving people resources for them to get the job done. But the business owners, their role is, like Chris has said, is looking down the road and planning,
Being prepared.
and thinking about, how can we make business better? What are things what are potential pitfalls coming up?
Right. Always amazes me the employees that you have that have an abiding respect for you as their boss. And
Yeah,
I've seen that. They do, and that's just one little part of making your business successful.
Probably.
You have to have happy people. You have to be good to your people, and if you want respect from them, you in turn give it to them as well. And Glenn has certainly done that.
Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, I mean, you have to respect. I mean, to me, that's a life thing for me.
Absolutely.
You treat everybody, in my mind, you treat
Exactly.
everybody the same. You treat everybody with the same respect, from people that you think can do things for you or people that can't do things for you.
Right.
You got to treat everybody the same, and that's just
Yes.
something that I do that. Just I don't know where that
Because
came from,
it's who
but
you are.
yeah, I mean it's just who I am, but people respect
And
that.
that's who you are. That's why you're
Correct.
so successful. That's why your business is so successful. That's why our children are so successful. That's our character, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I
you're
believe
right.
that's a very
Well,
important
that's what
thing.
we all do. We
Yeah.
try to instill those things into our children, like I did with my children, and I know you did with yours as well.
But no business is going to be successful unless you know your why. And if you can explain your why to your staff and get them to know what the why means, then your business is going to be successful and you're going to strive.
I mean,
Very
Correct.
important. Yeah.
one thing I know we for sure all have in common is that we all work really hard, because I know all of your jobs, I know all of your stories kind of, and how you got to where you are. And I think one thing I can say about us as a family is that we work really hard to get to where we want to be, or we have leadership mentality. But I know Mom, she's a leader, and she would come home every night and talk about her day at work, good or bad, and it's just always seemed that she's running things along with the people in charge. and maybe she wasn't exactly in the position to run things somewhat, but she would always help people when she could, and I guess I admire that about all of us. So do you think your success and your mentality, have you seen it develop in your children's lives because they've seen how hard you've worked to get to where you are now?
I think unquestionably, yes. Yeah, no question about that.
Mhm.
That's an easy one. I mean, to me, that's almost obvious.
Let them know.
Yeah.
That, yeah, I mean, your children are a reflection of you. We all, as we all grow and become who we become, you do have, obviously your parents are an influence on your life and who you are.
Yep.
To some degree and to some point. And things change and people, your children grow up and become adults and
have their own minds.
they get to a point where they're, full adults. And when is that?
They make their
When
own
do you think you
choices.
become a full adult? When you were 30 years old? When you were 40 years old? Or have
I
you yet?
know, Glenn.
But your question to me was, do I think? What was the question again?
Do you think that your mentality and
Oh.
your drive to chase after success is passed on to your kids? Do you
I-
see that in their lives?
I do see it in their lives. I don't know if they have that because of me. I think they do. I probably had some influence.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I think that Nolan and Carissa are two different people. They were their own individual people. I see strengths in Carissa that I have, but she also has some strengths that I don't have.
Mhm.
She has some. She just has some stuff that I she has some abilities and that I don't have. And Nolan does too, actually. I think me and Nolan's personality or demeanor are more similar. Chris's demeanor is different. We haven't really talked about this, but I've thought about it. We may have talked about this. Like, why do your kids don't work in your business? I didn't want my kids to work in the business. That I wanted you guys to write your own story. And I just feel like, because I had to write I know the lessons and the strength and the confidence that I have from having to do everything on my own in my life. And I didn't want to take that away from Carissa and Nolan. I want them to have that confidence that it wasn't, I got this because my dad owned the business and blah, blah, blah. I didn't want that to even be a thought in their head. I wanted them to be like, no, I did everything that I have in my life on my own. And I felt like that was important.
But he did
Yeah.
mention I have some plants now on my porch, and that if I kept them alive for 2 weeks, he may consider me to be on the labor team.
And how's that going?
One of them died.
One of them died.
But it
Yeah.
is fall, so maybe it's just seasonal.
I also do want to say, it's funny that we brought this conversation because we were talking about who our role models are on the car ride down, and this is pushing it off to you, but Nolan mentioned that you are one of his biggest role models in his life, and a lot of those topics were coming up in the car.
He is my role model.
Yes.
Not one of, he is.
But you're
He
we
is.
said
He's
parents. Okay, you're but it was parents we were talking about too. It's the credit to Penelope
mine,
also. So that's why I said both. But yes, so it's
Yeah,
We were
I
talking about
just
that.
said that because obviously we have a lot in common, but I see Dad's drive and how he's came up, this whole story, you just heard it. And he said he thinks that's why the way we are, and the answer is yes. I can tell you that for myself. I'm sure Chris can say the same. That we work as hard as we do because we've seen that in our parents, and there's probably some innate qualities as well. But I mean,
Well, that's what you
when you
don't
have
know,
a
yes.
role model to see it, it makes it a lot easier to know how to do it. Because some people don't have great role models and they can be lost. And
I would say from my perspective, when you're talking about, becoming an adult and working and all that comes, I think growing up comes with having more responsibilities. And I also think when you talk about confidence, comes from competency, which you only earn by doing things. And the fact that we were not spoiled forced us to take on more responsibility and work and things like that. There are a couple of situations that I've seen in other families where maybe they have, well-off parents and they baby the kids, or they keep paying for their kids up until they're 30, and it doesn't do them any favor because the kid is not forced to take on those responsibilities and learn to swim on their own, and you're not really helping your kid, and then they talk about discipline. Okay, at what point are you going to teach your kid to have discipline? You want to be the nice parent, but you're not really doing your kid any favors if you don't give them a little bit of tough love. And it's the earlier that you can teach your kid, do chores, have responsibilities, then they can use those skills earlier in their life. And it's probably better, especially in this economy, to learn to know how to work hard. The sooner the better, so that you can build a good life for yourself. And I do think that something that's really cool about my dad, or Glenn, is that he's very, it's not just about like doing things every day, but having a good strategy. And you're very thoughtful, like how you said, how you put in the thought that you thought it would be better for us to pursue our own careers versus just handing us a career, and all those decisions that you've made of us growing up has made an impact on like the paths that we've taken. And there's some things that we may not understand, but as we get older we come to appreciate more now that we're more into the adult world and working. I started working when I was technically 11 because I made a magazine newspaper for my neighborhood, which was cool. But then when I was, I think 12, I did some filing for a couple weeks in summer at your office. And then I started working as a hostess when I was 14 or 15.
15, I think. That's
15.
Red Elephant.
14.
Yeah. And then I did retail.
And she's
and-
always,
Yeah, I've always worked. I like making money. So I don't know if the money thing.
Potty training.
So mom party trained me by giving me coins because they figured out that
It
I really
worked.
liked money.
Yeah. It's the truth.
I've always
She was
liked
a baby. She liked money.
Yeah,
He potty trained her with money.
and I like.
Usually it's candy, but that works.
Yeah.
And struggle. But when you kind of like see the qualities that you want to be, it's a lot easier to go down the right path, I would say. So
Nolan, you were talking about there might not be people who have role models or people who have, good parents or even have parents in their lives at all. What is something you would say to those people? What is some advice that you would give to people who may not have good role models?
yeah, usually people like that end up being successful find a mentor in somebody else, like outside of their family, like a teacher, a coach in sports, or their manager or whatnot. Just finding somebody that you like the qualities of that person, like you can tell is a good person, or if they're successful and you want to emulate that success, then you start asking them questions and seeing if you can learn. Like he started as a laborer, so like to move all the way up, he had to learn from the people above him.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're always gonna have to ask the questions and find the right people to ask those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a person that you really like to emulate?
Look up to? Jesus.
Oh, you look up to God?
I mean, I read the Bible. I'm a hardcore Christian, I guess you could say.
That's
But
the best one to look up
Yeah.
to.
I mean, I read the Bible every day. I worship every day. I talk to God every day. People don't see that part of my life. They don't see when I first wake up, I read the Bible. They don't see when I'm driving in my car and I pray. They don't see all that. But sometimes people like to assume, and they just go off based off of what, they see. And it's like, sometimes you don't see everything, And I think a hard part or a lesson I've took from Christianity is like a lot of people like to assume, oh, I saw you do this last week, so you must, you must be that person now. You must be doing bad things or whatever because you saw somebody do something one time. But I think people change, people adjust, people are in a process of trying to become better and better every single day. Sometimes you just have to give that person a little grace and to see how much they can grow. Step back and realize that we all have potential. So yeah, I'm not perfect, never claimed to be, but I look up to Jesus in a lot of ways because, he was the perfect Son of God, and he came, died for our sins, and I love God with all my heart. So obviously we have a very large family. There's a lot of people here, but there's one person that has influenced us all greatly and made our family and lifted us up and kept us all together and brings us together more and more every single day. And that's my grandma. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how you influenced everybody here, and kind of your upbringing and how, you ran things. You also ran a business.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, my influence was a lot from my grandmother. I was very close with my grandmother. My mother worked very hard all her life, and we didn't have a lot of time together. But my grandmother was always there. And I learned a lot from her. I learned about love and life and God and family, and to appreciate the little things in life, which are the important things, but mostly to love and to forgive. To me, those were very important lessons that I learned from the family that I had. Aunts, uncles. I had a big family I grew up with, and I was very fortunate to have them all. And just in sharing my love with my children and my grandchildren, everybody here knows they're loved. And for people who don't have that feeling and never have had that feeling, and we know there are a lot of people out there, they don't know what it's like to be loved. Maybe to some degree, but to have all the love and respect from your family, that's pretty special. And that's what I grew up with, and that's what I wanted my children and my grandchildren to have and learn.
We love you.
You did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. The affection and the love and the life that I wanted to have and share with my children.
How did you know when you wanted to leave your job?
How did I know I wanted to leave my job? When my job went from a family practice to an incorporation that ended up with over 900 staff. It was too huge, too quick, and got too large too quick, and they forgot about the actual workers. It was all about business, making the money.
Oh, so kind of the opposite of what Uncle Glenn.
But what Uncle Glenn did and had in the beginning was the same exact thing that I did have with the family practice.
So both of the
that I
companies
started.
had the potential to be.
The business owner that I worked with started a business, and it grew to a successful business because of the same reasons that he discussed about, respecting his staff, watching out for the business, projecting the next few years, and all of that is correct. You have to do that. If you're not watching out for those things ahead, you're not going to be successful. And the business was very successful to where a larger business owner basically came in and purchased it to make it a business that grew to the point where it just became incorporated and then forgot about the actual employee.
Yeah, so what happens, so the guy that bought this business, he looked at it like an investment.
Total.
This was an investment, I'm gonna put money into this business, and the goal in the future is to have a big return on my investment. So
That's
he
exactly what happened.
he looked at it like an investment, right?
Right.
Whereas the other guy was sort of organic, it was like a small practice, it was his thing.
Mhm.
It's a very
Yeah.
small, the businesses really change when they're a small business to when they become.
Right.
I mean,
And
Pride.
you
Pride
think you
is
can have the same thing that you have as a small business
very difficult.
in a larger corporation and grow it that big? But it gets lost. You cannot sustain the same.
It's very
People
difficult,
become- Yeah.
but we do have somebody, like, Nolan works for a company that's a large business,
Yeah.
right? Really, but they have figured out how to make a good team environment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I will say I have a great team. I think it depends. Like, there's probably people that work.
But that's a piece of.
Yeah,
it.
it's probably people that work at any big company, and they have a totally different experience in a different part of the country, and they will not agree. But in my position, I'm on a good team. I'm in a good market and segment. So I think it depends. But
you're
it
a
is
specific team. It's not the whole company itself.
Yeah.
right, but I am part of a huge company, so it is possible to create that smaller dynamic.
Kind of like Toyota did.
Yeah, I think it's difficult.
That's the challenge.
Yeah, it's challenging, but
That's the challenge.
it
of a
is
big
possible,
business,
and
to be able
yeah.
to do it.
It's easier when it's broken down into smaller groups of people that can
Right.
actually care about each other, instead of like when it's too many people and nobody really starts to care about each
It's like
other.
I have
so.
a dream, and my dream is this, and I want to do this, and you do it, and you go in that direction, and then something else comes along, and you grasp it and says, "I want to make money now. My main focus is how much money can I make off this deal," and then that's when it changes.
Yeah. Well,
You lose sight of the
yeah.
And
what really matters,
That's right.
relationships and
Right.
And in the long run, what matters
Yeah.
most are the people that are involved, who are actually doing it and doing the work. Because if you didn't have them, your business wouldn't be successful.
So what about Taylor?
What do you want to know?
Well, you had that little thing that you were doing. You had your own Instagram account or whatever. That
When I was
was
doing
that just for fun?
Fitness?
fitness,
Yeah.
my fitness Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just for fun on the
Oh,
side.
okay.
But yeah, it was mostly because I was teaching classes, and then it was such a big organization, right? So it's kind of like to create those small connections and have people, because it was like you follow your instructor or like the person that you really like giving that service, as Penelope would know. So your client base follows you. So I created like a little Instagram, so the people who were coming to my things would follow me wherever I would go. So I'm trying to make it very general, but it was a fitness Instagram to different fitness classes at
And how
university.
did that work for you? I mean, you don't.
Yeah, I mean, the connections that I made were phenomenal, but it's also kind of like something that I did in college. So there was an end to that, which is something that I want to reopen up maybe in the future. I created a couple months ago my own LLC for a fitness organization that does like different events.
promote it on the podcast.
So when you see the name Fitness Games, sign up for it to be released soon.
I came up
900
with the
people.
Name.
are
Yeah,
gonna hear
Carissa
this.
I
helped
came
the
up with
name.
the name of the Hunger Games.
Fitness games.
Fitness
Yeah.
games, right?
Fitness Games,
LLC.
That's cool.
but
Right.
it's just
It
supposed
is
to
cool.
be
It
a
is cool.
Make
like
sure
a
you do
weekend
the right.
tournament. So there's like tennis, baseball tournaments, 5Ks, things of that sort. So it's like a weekend event that has different challenges, like mud run, but a more cross training dynamic.
Okay.
Nice.
But,
nice.
Yeah, so that's my current project. But yeah, so I had my fitness account, graduated college, tried to get into medical sales, worked on more on the admin side, definitely experience, and then now in the IT world. So, and then still teaching classes, still working on a little bit on the fitness side. But
Good.
But the IT world is still medical based.
yeah, it's IT healthcare sales, but yeah.
I mean, I know some about you, but I don't know a lot about you. I mean, all I know, well, you're
You want
cool.
me to start from the beginning? The full beginning? My
You were
mom,
born.
my dad.
I don't know how cool she is.
Yeah, I mean, the full story is
The day
my
you were
mom's
born.
from Wales. She's from a coal mining town. She's the youngest of 9. So they barely had food on the table. They had their own chickens that they would wait for the eggs to drop to feed themselves. And bare bones there. She came to the United States, worked in an ice cream shop,
How old was she when she came to the United States?
like late 20s, because she was working in a factory.
Late 20s?
Yeah,
Okay.
because she was
Okay.
dating her ex-boyfriend for 11 years, and they would travel in the summer and work in a factory in the winter. So they would try to gather as much money as they could in the winter working at the factories in Wales, and then would travel. So then when she broke that off, she kind of wanted to be more established. She came to the United States, met my dad in New York. They came down here. My dad owned multiple businesses, so kind of like going into that stake of seeing my parents work very hard to work in the businesses. And I don't know if this is child labor, but was working the phones at like 12 years old, trying to help my parents. Would sit in the corner of the offices after school till 6, 8 o'clock at night, whatever they need to get done. So I was like always there, and then kind of like looking after my younger sister as my parents worked. And so started my own dog business at 11 and nail business, but the neighbors asked for all the money back that I did to paint their kids' nails.
This is a
So that it worked very
dog
well.
walking?
Dog sitting, dog
Dog
walking.
sitting.
Wait, you would charge
Okay.
your neighbors to do their nails?
So yeah, I had and they asked for the money back.
At
So
11
yeah,
years old.
You got robbed at 11?
I did get robbed at 11. So I would charge the kids in the neighborhood to paint their nails, and it was like 10 cents per nail. So like they would give me their little coins, and I don't
So
know.
$1 for a whole. full.
Yes,
For
two
yes, but
hands.
you can like do like different fingers, like different colors, and there's upcharges for different colors. Anyway,
Upcharging.
we wanted a pattern.
What? I
Anyway,
didn't know this.
But the mom came knocking on like our house door, demanding for like her child's money back. 'Cause I was apparently robbing their piggy banks
That's
because they
funny.
wanted to get their nails done. So they took all the money back. So I gave up my nail business at 11.
That's horrible.
And-
This is the free
That
market
parent-
economy.
that-
I know. The mom was
You had
psycho
an
also,
incentive
but
there. That was good.
anyway.
I used to pay my friends to clean my room.
Oh, that's
I used
genius.
to pay quarters.
30, so.
She came in my room. She's like, "Why are your friends cleaning your room?" I was like, "What? I paid them."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have one thing to say. Can I say something?
Yes.
With what Teresa
So
said about the big corporation that she ended up working with and chose to leave. And Nolan is working again, now with a big corporation. But from what because I know that the company that Teresa worked for, and everything I've heard about the one that Nolan works for, the company that Nolan is with care about their people. And they do what they can for their people and keep their people happy. And because the company is run the way it is, people stay with this company. And the company that Teresa worked with, and one of the reasons Teresa, what she shared with me, was the frustration and people being unhappy and complaining and people leaving all the time. And because the position she was in, it seemed like she was always interviewing and hiring new people, yet nobody was happy. So in the scenario between the two different companies, it's amazing. Companies are run that way. And the one Nolan happens to be is very successful, and I'm really happy for you, Nolan.
You mentioned something about Toyota doing something right. Did they kind of break the bigger pieces into smaller groups? Is that what you were referring to?
I know you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
the effect, what is that called?
They had it's I don't remember the name, but they created a system to do projects. So it's like sprint system. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah,
But they have a way to like lead projects efficiently, and they get their employees,
I know.
There's a
It's
name.
called.
There's a name for it.
Yeah. What is it called?
And I don't know not every, but almost every major corporation utilizes their that
their
strategy
strategy, yeah.
within, in one way or another, it's implemented into large corporations because it's very effective.
What is Toyota's
strategy.
business strategy?
Yeah.
We'll have to read
Well,
about it.
because
Oh, it's lean.
Lean, yeah.
Yeah. Lean manufacturing, they call it. But
Is that
it's
like an acronym?
lean. It's like Six Sigma, lean.
Yeah.
Taking out all of the unnecessary things.
are you
Yeah.
Like
saying
instead of taking 20 minutes to produce this one product to go into a car or whatever, and move along this assembly line, what are the little things that is extra time, and how can we remove that to make us more efficient?
Yeah.
Lean processing. So
Oh, okay.
So you
got it.
basically start from the beginning before you waste all that time.
And
And
energy,
look back and-
right.
It's like if you did a project that took a month and you find out all the issues that went wrong, instead of planning it in the beginning and figuring out like what is actually not necessary,
Well-
you would save like a whole month's worth of
Yeah.
work.
They
It's-
say
it's-
like when you're gonna chop down a tree, you spend the whole day like planning how you're gonna do it,
Yeah.
and then only like 20 minutes actually.
right.
It's like the
So, final thoughts. What is one thing you would say to the world if you could, or to somebody who doesn't have a role model in their life and needs some advice?
First of all, learn to communicate with other people, like we all are doing here. Family, it's so important to be close and talk. We had many family discussions at the dinner table, and that's amazing. You know, so many people today sit in front of their devices, and there's no communication. And when there's no communication, the love that gets lost.
The one thing I would tell everyone is, if you are unhappy, don't do it. If you don't like your job, get a new job. If you don't like your partner you're with, then leave them and get a new partner. Be happy. You need to choose what makes you happy no matter what you do. And just because, don't stay in a situation that you're not happy with. Being happy and fulfilling your self in your own heart, in your life, to share with others is the most important thing.
I would say to the world, and that you just said that didn't have a role model. Is there way? To people that don't have a role model. Yeah. So look, I would say to the world, don't let instances, things that go on in your life, people in your life, dictate what you want to do in your life.
Perfect.
You can let other people's actions and words and lack of actions and lack of words bother you. And I know people that are adults today that are 50 years old, that are 60 years old, that are still blaming their parents or their teacher or someone in their past for reasons why they don't have some things that they want. And I just think it's sad. And don't do that, because you're responsible for your life at some point. If we're talking about adults here, I don't know if everybody's adult that's listening, but if you're an adult, you're responsible for yourself. And you can let other people, don't let other people's actions bother you. You know what's right. You know what you want to do. I would say, I don't know what else to say, but I think I said it.
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
For people to have a good philosophy in life, I would say always treat people the way that you think is right. I got confused growing up because they say treat people how you want to be treated and you'll be treated back right, like the golden rule or something. But people don't actually treat you back good all the time, unfortunately, no matter how you treat them. But they're, what you put out into the world is what you get back. So, never stop being kind and trying to do what you think is right, because that will serve you well and you will always, be happy and fulfilled. And I think the most important thing is try to be a good person, and everything else usually falls into place. Okay.
These are so good. Oh my gosh. How do I follow? Well, regarding the role model part, if you don't have a good role model, then do the opposite of what they're doing. So,
That's true.
so you learn what not to do. So that you can learn in that aspect also. And then what I want to say to the world / internet is keep moving forward, one day at a time, 1 year at a time. Go forward, work towards that future that you want.
I would say, for just life advice, that you should think about what really matters to you and what you really care about, and then live your life, live the rest of your life towards that goal or with that in your mind. So like we always say in this family, like, remember who you are. So like I've always like kind of at a young age just decided what I want, like not necessarily like a job, but like deciding like who I want to be as a person. And I've always kind of stuck by that. So I think that's just a good motto to have.
And I'd have to say, don't give up. Life is hard. Things happen. You make mistakes. You fall. You may feel like you're failing, or like your life is ending, the world's ending, and everything sucks. But in the end, you can always come out of it. I think I learned a long time ago that it just depends on your perspective of life and how you look at things. If you're constantly looking at life as such a negative thing and you just hate your life and your job and things that are going on, then you're just thinking so negatively, then obviously you're going to hate your life. But if you start to look at things as a more positive, from a more positive aspect, then you realize that, hey, I get to go to work today. I get to wake up today. That's a privilege.
That's it.
Some people aren't able to work. Some people aren't able to make money. Some people don't have the things that you have.
Positive.
So you always have to look at things in a positive light. I feel like Grandma just kept telling me that over and over again until eventually I got it.
She's your positive.
Because
She's our positive.
for a while I didn't get it, and she'd say it to me. And I just didn't get it. But eventually I got it, and I realized life's just how you make it. If you're unhappy with your life, then you're probably doing something wrong, and it's nobody else's fault.
It's your responsibility to change it.
That's right, honey.
Live better.
I think what you were saying is actually something I was going to say, but I
Yes.
forgot. So you're like,
Back.
when you just wake up, like be happy that you woke up. So like, if you set your baseline for how you're going to be happy, like some people set their baseline, I'm not going to be happy till I hit $1 million. Well, that's kind of rare, and you're probably not going to be happy. So like if you set your baseline out, like I'm happy that I woke up today. You're going to be a happy person. And then obviously you want to create goals for yourself. But in terms of happiness, like not saying lower your standards, but like appreciate and like understand
Have gratitude.
like what
Gratitude.
we're in a world, you cannot wake up and like it could
Take
be
it one day at a time.
one day at a time, like exactly.
So to your point, there was a quote that was like mind blowing to me, and it said, people think that you have to have success in order to be happy, but actually people that are happy breed success. So the fastest way to become successful is to already choose to be happy. People love to work with happy people. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be positive. So happiness actually comes before
It's contagious.
success. Yeah.
And it helps you form
Yeah.
connections.
I mean, real success, not
Of course.
corrupt success.
And
It's
another,
important.
another thing too, I know I always try to teach Teresa and Glenn, learn by other people's mistakes. If it doesn't feel right, then don't do it yourself.
Taylor's good.
Yeah, good job, Taylor.
I mean, you said it better yourself.
That's
It's
right.
perfect.
That's
I
right.
also heard this funny story about, I don't know, it was like a monk or a person, just a random person, but he would wake up and clean the toilet as soon as he woke up. It was like starting your day with the absolute bare minimum to humble yourself for the rest of the day. Not them saying that you want to clean your toilet every morning, but it's like the lesson of it.
Oh, I like that.
Humbling yourself for the rest of the day. And you
Mhm.
have everything else to look forward
Clean
to.
my toilet every other morning.
Well, that's like making your bed every day.
Yeah, make
Right.
it right.
Right.
Make your bed.
And what is the importance
If you
of
don't do
making your bed
anything-
every day?
I know.
complete
If
Right.
you know,
Complete
because you
your-
It
completed
makes you
one
feel
thing.
satisfied.
momentum.
But you've completed one thing.
You,
One
It will
you've
give
completed
you
a
the
task.
drive to complete
It
your
sets
task
up your
for the
day
day.
to get other
Right.
things.
Thank you for tuning into tonight's episode of This and That Plus Cat. We're all tired and gonna go to bed. So, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.